Hey everybody, welcome to Eden Fractal. We're here at our 96th meeting. I'm here with Rosmari and with Eric, and we have an exciting seasonal discussion today and perhaps a game that we'll be playing too. So thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks Rosmari and Eric for being here. Hope that everybody's doing well. I'll get in to share a brief presentation. Rosmari, Eric, if you want to say hello or share anything, of course, you're always welcome to do so. But otherwise, I will jump right into the presentation and we'll hear from everybody soon. All right, so if you're not familiar, of course, you can learn about Eden Fractal at edenfractal.com. It's a community that creates innovative game shows and tools. We have formed our vision and our mission recently. We believe that all community organizations should have the tools and methods to make the best possible decision-making, decisions that are fast, fair, and fun. And we're doing this by implementing a collaborative decision-making processes throughout society via collaborative research, development, education, gamification, and community engagement. You can learn more about our mission and vision on the website, as well as join our weekly events too. Everybody's welcome to join, of course, where we play consensus games and we experiment with consensus games, and you can collaborate with innovators and learn great things that you can implement with your community organization as well. So I encourage you to join and invite friends. And we also make videos each week too, so you can follow our progress and watch all the cool stuff we're doing and get involved as well. And we're building tools that you can use too. So obviously you can check out more on the website. We go through this just about every week, so I'm just going to keep it real short. Put out promotional messages to invite everybody at the Eden Creators account. We put this one out yesterday, but basically I think today we're planning to discuss a seasonal structure to organize this community around shared goals and align Eden Fractal with Optimism Fractal's seasonal structure. Some beautiful artwork here, some very fractal artwork. And of course, we meet every Wednesday at 16 UTC. So I encourage everyone to join once again. There was a little bit of a problem before with the time being incorrect, but we fixed that. So 16 UTC is the time every Wednesday. So I suppose there's maybe two topics that we can discuss today. It depends how long, because this is kind of like a sort of a suggestion. And I suppose I'll just share it right here. So basically, I last week we had a discussion about seasonal strategies, and we had some great ideas about how to plan for the upcoming 2-year anniversary and the 100th event and so forth. And then one of the things we discussed is seasons. I mean, like initiating seasons, maybe like 3-month seasons and so forth for Eden Fractal, and also taking breaks in the season too. So I thought about that for a while after last week's event. Thanks so much, Rosemarie and Eric, for all the great insights during that event. And I came up with kind of 3 changes that I'd like to implement and discuss here. So the first is to initiate a seasonal structure for Eden Fractal, where each season lasts about 8 to 12 weeks, followed by a 2-week break at the end of each season. And then I also suggest that we take a 2-week spring break after this week's event to give everyone some time to relax and prepare for our next season. And that would mean that we would not meet on April 24th or May 1st. And then the third thing is to begin the 9th season of Eden Fractal on May 8th. And previously we didn't count seasons. So I'm proposing that, or suggesting that we kind of just retroactively group our first 96 events into 8 seasons of 12 events each. And going forward, I also suggest that we align the seasons of Eden Fractal with Optimism Fractal and retro funding, which I think makes a lot of sense because these are really big opportunities for the Eden Fractal community. And there's also synergies in aligning the events with Optimism Fractal and the same seasonal structure. Retro funding, if anybody isn't familiar, we talked about this a lot at Eden Fractal. This is a huge opportunity for public goods, for funding public goods and building great things that are helpful for everybody. That goes on the Optimism Collective, and the Optimism Collective is giving out 850 million OP to support public goods creators. An article where you can learn more here. This article provides some details about the 3 rounds that are coming up for retro funding. This is something that I recommend checking out our previous articles and previous videos to learn more if you're not familiar, but really great stuff going on here. And this article is the new round. So we talked a lot about the 3rd round, and now the 4th through 7th rounds have been announced for retro funding, which was previously called retroPGF. You can call it either one, but now it's called retro funding here in the blog article. And there's going to be rounds for on-chain builders, the OP stack governance and dev tooling in the Optimism Collective in May, August, and October of this year. And each of these are expected to last about 2.5 months. So I suggest that we align Eden Fractal seasons around this. And it hasn't been exactly announced when the exact dates will be announced yet, but I suggest that we kind of just aim to go along with these and schedule our seasons along with it. And I think that'll be really helpful for Eden Fractal and for Optimism overall. There's more details you can find on this article about retro funding in general, and what is OP and what is optimism, and these different these different programs to fund on-chain builders and the OP second governance and dev tooling. I think a lot of this is relevant and very helpful for Eden Fractal and anybody who's interested in implementing fractal decision-making processes in their community organizations. So I think this is a great idea. There's more that you can learn here and also on the Optimism website. Of course, if you're not familiar with Optimism, check out optimism.io where you can learn more. And also there's a page about retroactive public goods funding, which is what retro funding and retroPGF is. We've discussed this a lot before, but recommend checking out. Great opportunity for anybody who's working with fractals and doing collective decision making and so forth. So that's kind of my suggestion there. We also discussed a similar topic at last week's Optimism Fractal event, and I shared a link to this in the Telegram group, and people can learn more about that by watching a discussion that we had and also a post that you can check out too. So I encourage you to check it out. And I think it'd be really great to have both events going along with this retro funding. And I also put out a brief apology for kind of short notice, but we did talk about it a bit last week. And I think we'll just make the most positive impact by moving quickly to align these seasons. It can also help us attain the unstoppable momentum that we discussed, Eric had brought up back in our 74th event, and provide us with time to develop the app and coordinate the 2-year anniversary like we started planning out last week. And then also just taking breaks in general. We've done fractals just every week for a long time. So I think this would be a really nice way to move forward in a more dynamic and also sustainable manner where we can catch up on a lot of things that we haven't had a chance for, take some time to relax. So yeah, curious to hear everybody's thoughts about this. For most of Eden Fractal's existence, we've used a consensus process we called Eden plus Fractal to make decisions together, but we haven't used this process or elected a delegate in about 5 months. So I'm not sure if this consensus process is still in effect. I don't think that like people have an issue with taking a break. I think the seasons will be good, but curious, Eric, what you think about this? And so feel free to share any thoughts about this, or if we should just go ahead and initiate it, then happy to just go ahead and take that initiative. I don't think we need to pass a proposal or anything like that, but would be curious just to hear everybody's thoughts about it. If anybody wants to see past videos, Rosmari posts every video in the Eden Fractal Telegram chat and also at edenfractal.com/videos. You can see all the videos, including the 75th meeting where we discussed Eden Fractal seasons for the first time and creating unstoppable momentum, taking inspiration from sports and exploring how seasons can lead communities to victory. So a little bit of context and so forth. So that's basically it. Also, optimismfractal.com for anybody who wants to learn more about the Optimism Fractal community that we're aiming to align with. And then here's the consensus process that we've been using we use this for over a year at Eden Fractal, where people elect delegates and so forth. So at some point, perhaps we can reinvigorate this process, but I think it's really helpful and great, but we just haven't really used it lately. So people can learn about it here. And then perhaps with the seasonal structure, we can also attract more people to Eden Fractal too, because there's a lot of people who can benefit from these, but we'll have some more time to promote it and so forth. So that's main proposal. I know this has been a bit of a long presentation. I'm aiming to make it shorter, but appreciate you being patient and listening. It's kind of a lot of news and announcements I wanted to share. And then if we have time, I don't know if we'll have a detailed discussion about this or not, but if we have time and would like, then I also put another message too, another kind of topic proposal about fractal stories too. We had discussed how at the end of each season, we can have a period of celebration, and during each season, we can have a goal that we're striving for and so forth. But then seasonal structure is kind of nice too, because you can kind of have a little celebration at the end or play a fun game or something fun like that, in addition to other benefits like being able to iterate each season and try different things, try new things. So I put out this message. So if we have extra time and we want to close the season, if we decide to do the seasonal structure, then basically there's a topic called fractal stories I made here. And the idea here is that each participant gets 5 minutes to share a story or experience or other thoughts about fractals, and feel free to just interpret this as loosely as you like. You can share ideas about the strategy like we've been discussing a lot during this past season or past 10 weeks or so, or feel free to ask me questions or whatever. And then if we want, at the end, we could play a game in Slido, which we haven't done in a while. We haven't played many games lately, so we could rank some stories or something like that for the most fun or inspiring stories. Just an option. We could also save it for next week too. But yeah, curious, Eric, what do you think? Curious, Rosmari, what do you think? We've talked about it a little bit here and there already. So that's my presentation, and I'll wrap up there, and floor is open. So if anybody wants to share their thoughts, and it looks like my screen went gray. Can you see me right now?
Yes, but you're frozen.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll stop my video and restart it.
Now I see great.
Okay, I will work on fixing that. And in the meantime,
At least
Rosmari,
you hear.
what's that? Okay, there I am.
Now I see. I hear you.
Here I am. Okay, sounds good. My apologies for the technical issue.
It's okay.
So, Rosmari, Eric, what do you think about the idea of doing the seasonal structure? As a brief reminder, I know I said a lot there, but basically the three things that I suggested here are: one, initiate a seasonal structure for Eden Fractal where each season lasts about 8 to 12 weeks, followed by a 2-week break at the end of each season. Ideally, each season would probably be around 90 days. I know Eric has mentioned that. Then take a 2-week break starting after this week's event, and then begin the 9th season of Eden Fractal on May 8th. And we could group the first 96 events into 8 seasons. So curious what you think about that or anything else I was mentioning there.
I like the idea.
Well, tell me about these optimism seasons.
Sure, I'm happy to. And it seems like I'm frozen again too, so
Yes.
I'm having some internet issues, it seems. But as long as you can still hear me, then I'll go ahead. And thanks for the question, Eric. So,
I can hear you.
okay, cool. Sounds good. Thanks for the confirmation. So the optimism seasons, technically, optimism has a couple of different things that you might call a seasonal structure. What this is in particular that we're aiming to align with is the optimism fractal seasons, because we also propose doing basically the same seasonal structure for optimism fractal. And then what that's ultimately going to align with and aiming to align with is the retro funding rounds, which aren't technically called seasons, they're just called rounds of retro funding. But that's something we've discussed a lot at previous Eden Fractal events where Optimism, the Optimism Collective, has something called retroPGF, aka retro funding, where basically people contribute to optimism in various ways, making public goods such as building software or inviting people or improving governance or helping people in various ways, creating public goods, aiming to create an impact to the Optimism Collective. And then they have an ethos of impact equals profit. So basically, people who create an impact for the Optimism Collective, then can get rewarded with retroactive public goods funding. So like I said, we discussed that a lot. Eric, I'm sure that you knew a lot of that already, or probably all of it. But in particular, over the past like 3 weeks or maybe a month ago, Optimism announced the 4th through 7th round of this. So previously they had done 3 rounds. The first 2 rounds were kind of like a little test, and the third round was quite big, and that's one that we covered a lot and participated in. The Optimistics team, that's Rosmari and I, and Tadas and Vlad. And then that was the 3rd round that happened back in October, and now they're aiming to do this like once every 3 months or so. And so they announced the next 4 rounds. And the next 4 rounds, if you want, I can go into more detail about it, and perhaps I can share my screen again. That might be helpful to do. But the next 4 rounds are on-chain builders, and then after that is the OP stack, which probably isn't so relevant for us because the OP stack is kind of like the core technical infrastructure of the Optimism superchain. It's what the OP mainnet or chains like Base and actually WorldCoin actually just announced WorldChain and so forth. That's what they use. So that's like really technical developments that we're not so involved with. But the other ones, on-chain builders, governance, and dev tooling, I'm sharing my screen now so you can see these are happening in May, August, and October. And then you can see the screen as well, what these are aiming to reward. Like, for example, the on-chain builders round is aiming to reward on-chain builders, people who are building on blockchains who contribute to the success of Optimism. And it aims to expand the reach and impact of the network by rewarding those who are building on the superchain and so forth, bringing users to the superchain and driving network effects and protocol usage. Of course, we're building tools on the Optimism superchain as well, like the Respect Game and Fractal app that we've discussed. So this is something that could be very relevant to Eden Fractal community members or anybody who wants to use these tools with their own community organization. It can be an opportunity to earn funding by implementing the Respect Game or other Fractal decision-making tools in your community organization. And we welcome anybody to join to ask questions or reach out. And then governance too. Like we discussed a lot, Eric. Our tools that we're building, they provide a really great foundation and primitive for making shared decisions. And that's our mission and vision, very related to decision making. So in retrofounding round 6, which is coming up in this August. So this would be, I think, probably the 10th season of Eden Fractal if we adopt this structure. Then it would be related towards governance, which might be really good timing. And once our app is built, then we have more built out to use respect in governance and so forth. So this this retro funding round, which would be season 10 of Eden Fractal, and the governance round, which is round 6 of retro funding, focuses on rewarding key governance infrastructure that enables continued decentralization, as well as research and analytics tools and so forth. So you can read more on the screen. I shared the article in the Telegram chat. And then the last round that's been announced is retro funding round 7, which is focused on dev tooling. And this is supporting Optimism builders with developing tooling, with developer tooling. So it includes SDKs and testing frameworks and contributions that streamline the development process and empower builders, ensuring a more efficient and productive development environment, which I think that the respect game does and can do a lot more, as well as we get things like respect trees rolling and stuff like that, where people can vote on different projects that they want to participate in. So those are like the rounds that have been announced, and they're aiming to do a lot more rounds too, probably every 3 months or so. And this is also an iterative process. So eventually maybe they can even integrate fractals directly into the system. But that's kind of the idea there. And like I shared before, there's also this website where you can learn more about retroPGF as well. And then if you wanted to check out, like, for example, Optimistics.io has the blog post that I referred to. I suppose I won't bring it up now, but people who are watching can check out our previous videos on the Eden Fractal site or the Optimistic site to learn more. Did that answer your question, Eric? I know Eric was, he said he was driving in traffic, so maybe he didn't hear us. But whenever you get a chance, Eric, I'm curious if that answered your question or if you had any other questions about the seasonal structure of optimism. Oh, one other thing I meant to mention too.
No,
Oh, what's up?
I just forgot to mute. I'm actually not driving anymore.
Okay.
But so these seasons, how are they timed? Are they regular? Do they just publish dates? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so previously they were not regular. Like the first one happened, and then there was another almost a year before the second one happened. And then it's been gradually getting faster and having like smaller cadences, basically. And that's what they're aiming to do. So it's only in the fourth round, and the first couple of rounds took a while. But then it's been about 6 months since the previous round, and now they're aiming to do a round every 3 months, and perhaps even faster in the future. But it seems like 3 months is probably what they're going for. So I think that aligns pretty well with our idea about doing 90-day seasons. And then right now we have just that limited information that the rounds are happening in May, August, and October, and they each last approximately 2.5 months. Pretty soon, they said within the next week or two, there'll probably be information that shows exactly what the dates are. I'm sure there will be, but it's just not announced exactly what the dates are. So we're waiting to hear exactly about that.
So, but the dates are irregular, so you just never know.
I mean, well, we have to see. So previously it was like that where the dates were regular and you just never knew, but they're aiming to bring more predictability into the system. They're aiming to make it a reliable cycle that people can rely upon and build businesses on and build communities around and stuff like that. So it seems like we have a very good understanding about the general timeline. Like they said, the applications for these next 3 rounds will be due in May, August, and October. So it's possible there's some like
Well,
delays or something like that, but basically we know that they're each going to take about 2.5 months, and we're just waiting on like the exact date.
so I think that is the discussion. Does it make more sense to align with optimism, or does it make more sense to align with standard quarters? If our goal is to get, optimism funding, then yeah, that's probably maybe. But if we do other things, those quarters aren't necessarily in sync with the rest of the world.
That's true. Yes. Well, so far the biggest source of funding that me and the Optimistics team have experienced is this retroPGF retro funding, and in general, I believe it is the largest public goods funding source in the world. So they're giving up. They have 850 OP allocated for this purpose of retro funding. The current price, I haven't checked the price recently, and obviously these prices are volatile and they change, but that's something like $3 billion or so, maybe $4 billion, and it's specifically dedicated for public goods creators, like what we're doing, creating public goods that help people make better decisions and foster better culture and help people connect and so forth. So it's been a pretty good opportunity so far for me personally and for the people who I've seen. Like there's lots of people who are building businesses with many like who are making many $100,000 or millions of dollars, and it looks like it's on a trajectory to grow quite a bit as well. So
I'm not against that, but I think it's worthy of a discussion. For example, I work with a company that had a software platform, and we had a lot of people that made their living just to being compatible just by being built on our platform. So, most of their decisions making was based off of what we're doing. So I don't, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's something worth thinking about, because if our seasons are not aligned with optimism, doesn't mean we still can't file for optimism funding. Just would make it easier to say what's coming up, what do we apply for, those kind of things.
that's true, and that's a good point. Also, I suppose I could say too, like this is a general idea, but I don't recommend that we like go ahead and set our seasonal structure right now for like the whole year and say we're gonna have this season from this date to this date, and next season from this date to this date, and so forth. I suppose the main thing would just be like taking it step by step, and so I think that we've done like just about 96 events straight now, and we took a 2 week break back in this winter for the first time. And I'd say the first step is just like saying if we want to agree to starting a new season, I say taking a 2 week break and then starting a new season right after that. And I think that makes sense. Generally speaking, if we say that this is our 96th meeting, which is easily divisible by 12, so we could say we have 8 seasons of 12 events each, basically, and then we could play it by ear. I think also it makes a lot of sense for the fact that I'm also focused a lot on Optimism Fractal, and I think that's like the largest running fractal right now. And there's a lot of opportunity there and a lot of growth. So aligning it with Optimism Fractal as well would work well for my schedule and Rosmari's schedule too, as well as being able to promote it together. But I think taking that break would be helpful to be able to catch up on some tasks and then make it like kind of more sustainable, like a lot of stuff we discussed in previous weeks. So I suppose we could take it step by step. And I'm open to the idea of having it more seasonal structure or like a quarterly structure that still applies for retro funding, but just isn't aligned specifically with it. But I think there also is possibility that both by aligning with Optimism Fractal and then by having it aligned specifically with the seasons, we might be able to use the theme of the seasons to create more funding opportunities for Eden Fractal community members as well as helping Optimism more effectively. I'm curious what you think about that, Eric, as well as Rosmari.
I'm interested in what Rosmari says too, but I mean, for me in general, I like having that standard. What are we going to do, and where are we going? Because I plan by year and break up that year into quarters, because that gives you continuity, that gives you that momentum that keeps going. So, if here's where we want to get to in general by year, then we're asking ourselves, what can we do this quarter? So I'm less of a fan of saying, well, let's just do seasons when we want, because then you lose that connection to the higher goal. Then it's just all about seasons. Kind of like we could just do weeks. What are we going to, it's what we've done before. It's like, well, what are we going to do this week? And it's not, you don't get good stuff done this week, but your weeks are not aligning with quarters because you're just thinking weeks. And if you just do seasons and they're not tied to something bigger than a season, like a year, if you're looking at it that way, then what do you want to do this year? The difference is you adjust your year by what you learn doing a quarter. So you think this is where you're going. You say, what could I do in this quarter to get there? to move in that direction. And then when you do that, you find out that, oh, maybe we were wrong, or we made different assumptions, or things are going to go faster or they're going to go slower. So I'm a big fan of linking up what we want to do someday with what we think we can do this year, which what we're going to do this quarter. So that's why I like that connection in there, because you get big things by doing a lot of little things, but kind of going in a direction. Doesn't mean you have to lock it in perfectly. Say, this is our five, like business has tried to do. Write your 5-year plan. Exactly what happens with, they're usually just not very good if you're in this interest doing something based on technology or trends, because they change so fast. But having an idea where you want to go someday, where you want to go this year, where you're going this quarter, and then you're tracking your quarterly progress by saying, this on month one, are we like a third of the way there or not? Month two, are we 2/3 or not? Are we ahead? Are we behind? Do we need to change something? But I think 90 days or so is the biggest driver, and I think the biggest way you do that is by focusing on weeks. But I like to see them all connected. The idea is what I'm doing today, I can see a link between what I'm doing today and where we're going to be in a year. I think that's good. If you look at what everybody's doing and they know I'm doing that, that's one way you keep teams and build progress, is because you give them a scorecard that says, what everybody's doing, they can see how that relates and their part in creating the future. Maybe that's talking too much. Rosmari, thoughts?
Thanks. Yeah, I think I agree with Eric. And then I think the suggestion that Dan says is not excluding having a kind of a quarterly way to the dates, because the 12 weeks on, 2 weeks off in a rhythm, that makes up the quarters, but also including breaks periodically. And I think how about we do the 12 weeks with 2 weeks break, and also try to align with the rounds of retro funding dates and adjust as we go. I'm not saying like one-to-one to totally copy what they do in terms of dates and that's it. I'm saying that if we can keep the 12-week to 2-week kind of schedule for Eden Fractal, but also try to align with their dates, and for example, adjust our breaks or something like that if we think it's suitable. I think that's a good kind of a solution there. And also, I am strongly for aligning with some of the goals that Optimism retro funding rounds are about, such as the ones that Dan showed earlier. Because yes, I agree that this would give more purpose to whoever joins it in Fractal, and give them I mean, more of a structured way of us collaborating and see where it goes, because as Dan mentioned, it's the largest public goods funding mechanism in the world, and it will be good to align for that reason. And
I think that's good if they have regular things, but if they're saying, oh, this in 4 months we're going to do this, then we're taking 2 months off, then we've got this 3-month period we're doing this, then we're going to do something, then here's a 1-month period. That's very different. It doesn't mean we can't look at that and say, oh, this came up and do it, but it's very difficult to plan our own momentum if there's just a cycle that keeps moving.
Mm-hmm. I think we can still, I think we should still keep the, like, think about Eden Fractal's goals individually. And maybe this is the priority, really, to keep the momentum. But also think about how can we sync in or sync up with this opportunity.
Yeah, if we're going to bring lots of people in and keep them motivated and going, we need to be able to take everybody's individual goals and mix it in there and give them a path and a roadmap. Otherwise, it's like you're just playing a basketball game without score. It gets boring, as opposed to being able to help them with that. And as far as I would keep things to 12 weeks and put any time we take off within that 12-week window. I mean, you can take 2 weeks off in that 12 weeks or a week off or a day off. I wouldn't do 12 weeks and take 2 weeks off and start a different 12 weeks, because then you've got this rotating calendar, which you have to keep bumping. When you do that, when you say, what is our year goal, then it becomes a lot difficult. Because, a year is just 4 quarters. That's easy. But if you do 4 quarters plus 2 weeks and 2 weeks, 2 weeks, unless we just want to say, oh, well, a year we do 3 quarters, and we look at it that way, and you take 1 quarter off and put a week in each of those to buffer that out. But yeah, I mean, I would just say, what are we going to do in 90 days? And that 90 days can be 10 weeks worth of work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So more so 10 weeks and 2 weeks off.
Yeah, and you could add a week off at the beginning and a week at the end, or you could add 2 weeks at the end. I don't think it matters. And within that, you can say, oh, we're taking 4th of July off. I mean, that's what businesses do. Here are holidays, and they do that within their quarterly structure.
Yeah. Also, I'm interested, why do you think there won't be a scorecard, or there won't be a way to measure our progress if we do
what do you
10
measure?
week,
What are you measuring? No, if you did 10 weeks, 2 weeks, it would be. That's fine.
It would be, but
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's easy to get a daily scorecard. It's really nice to have a weekly scorecard. Month is really just on your way toward a quarter. Quarterly scorecards, I think, are real important. What I'm saying is you need to link that to where we're going in a year and where we're going someday. And if you mess with that too much, it's really tough. You start losing that connection between, oh, I see what I'm doing today fits what I'm doing this week, which contributes to what we want to do this quarter, which contributes to what we want to do this year, which is getting on this track in our mission and vision of someday getting here. And I'm saying that's kind of important to do. But if your seasons of sense are here and there, then you start losing track between what your seasons are connecting with a year. And then it can also get even tricky with your weekly connecting with your season. I mean, the problem we had before is all we did was track weeks, and you've seen people lose interest because they go, I don't think we're going anywhere. Even though we did things every week, they're going, yeah, I'm not seeing any momentum. Like the first quarter of this year, we focused on mission vision. And I think we did it. We can say, look what we did. We did a mission vision. Well, why is that important? Well, because now we know where we want to get, what we can do in a year based on that mission and vision, and we start getting a picture of what we can do someday. I think the priority this quarter is actually to define a product. What is our product? If we were going to the shelf, we go into the governance or decision-making store, and we go to the shelf and we pull off a product and we take it and it looks like, and we were to virtually say, what is that product called? What is it? And turn it over and say, what are the ingredients? I just did that for the place I'm in right now. They didn't have that. It's like, well, what are your product? And we said, if you went to the shelf and pulled it off, what's the name of the product, and what do you get? Not start off by, you don't start off by the ingredients, right? You don't get a box and open it up and start reading the ingredients. The ingredients are important. You might highlight what's special about your ingredients, all organic, something like that. But it starts with, what is this thing called? What do I get if I use this thing, this particular thing, not Eden Fractal, but this product? And then, oh yeah, what are the ingredients? And I don't think we've defined that. And I think by the end of June we should have that. That doesn't mean we can't also put stuff in there when the retroactive funding comes in. No, we can do that. But to me, that's what the priority is coming up and testing a product. So I went to a nonprofit community connect thing yesterday to talk to people that have volunteers and things, and I'm looking for people to help me test the first product we have, just to make sure it works.
Okay, cool. Well, sounds good. And yeah, hopefully we'll have that product not only defined, but I think there's a good chance that we'll have it delivered, and it is delivered to some extent too. I was just to
But
share what I meant there.
Yeah, but I think we should write that. I think that's what you should be doing. We should say, if we were to do that, what does this look like?
Right.
I think we can write it down now versus just talking about stuff and it's there. I'd say, if we were to take our first guess on what that product is, what is it? What do we call it? What do you get when you use it? What are the ingredients?
So I'm happy to answer that. First off, I think I saw Rosemary was saying something. Does that cut you off before, Rosemary, or should I go ahead?
I mean, I also started to think about, okay, if we align with the rounds of retro funding, what is the aim there? Kind of, what is the hidden benefit there? Are we going to then apply as Eden Fractal? Once we start to, let's say, work towards the different structural rounds that they have. And I know that this will probably help us move faster with, let's say, defining the product as part from that, because that would probably just open the conversation and get us into this work mode. But also what is really once we start to do that, where do we go next? What is the end goal? And that's really where the point is of connecting the two and seeing, is this going to help us that much, or are we better off just kind of focusing more on Eden Fractal and kind of the core of it? But I think it's funding opportunities is really important. So I think to do that sustainably, we do have to at least consider, and maybe I started to think about having a session just by brainstorming, okay, how can we actually make this work when we look at the Optimism's retro funding rounds and Eden Fractal and where we at, how can we align the two? How would it look like, let's say, if we start to really align it? So that's what I'm kind of interested at, and I don't think we have explored that yet.
Okay. Thanks for all the thoughts. So
we're all bringing in different things here into the mix.
Yes, and I'd like to try to wrap it together because there's been a lot of really inspiring thoughts here. So I think one thing that I also didn't mention too, that I think it's really important key to this is that it's an important funding opportunity for us. All of us are earn revenue, and we all have to have means to make a living, and we all want to be wealthier and so forth. But it's also an important consideration for fractals in general, because we need a way that many people can contribute, not just the three of us, there used to be 20 people who joined Eden Fractal meetings. The original white paper has the idea that thousands and thousands of people can join, but there hasn't been an incentive mechanism to fund thousands and thousands of people. There hasn't been like a strong one really. So there's been ideas, but none of them have really played out. But with Optimism and retro funding, as well as other organizations that are doing retro funding and sort of similar public goods, I think that we have that mechanism right now. And so I think that that's one of the things that answers your question, Rosmari, about like where does this go and like what are the deeper benefits of it? It's that it can propel an ecosystem of developers and creators and builders and so forth to contribute to fractals. And that also goes to what Eric was saying too about having seasons where people are like motivated to not just come week after week after week, but say, hey, what am I going to accomplish? So we can have seasonal goals about what we want to accomplish. And for example, if we align with retro funding, then we can align with on-chain building and like, for example, building the app that we're aiming to build. And then governance, we can align with building governance tools for the app. Like first, the app allows people to play the games or do the processes like of giving each other respect. And then after that, do the games or processes of making decisions and so forth. And then also do the games processes of building developer tooling, which is also another kind of governance decision and building. It's kind of a combination of both those things that it requires governance to decide what should we build for developers and for further purposes like education and so forth. And on that note too, I also wanted to share, because I think that there's a really big opportunity, particularly with Optimism, because it works with the EVM and because it works with Ethereum, which is the largest network, it's like the largest decentralized computing infrastructure network with the most developers, that people can build apps like the Respect game or like the Fractal app, which is necessary because really what these are decentralized computers, and you need to have a computer that not just one person owns. Basically, you need to have a community computer. So by having this kind of development environment and building environment that we can build fractals, and people can be funded by building on the largest network and the largest computing infrastructure, which is the EVM, like that can really tap into that longer term goal where everybody can be rewarded and build these tools much faster than a small community can do so. So with that, I'd like to share my screen and just kind of bring this together with a couple different things. One, this is actually from Hotline and Bitbeckers, two great people who we met at Optimism Fractal, and Hotline and Bitbeckers worked on a IC Fractal product requirement document. So they're already thinking about how fractals can be built, and they're envisioning a tool for building fractals. They have a bunch of comments here, and you can learn. Basically, their idea was taking the tools we have built for Optimism Fractal already with Fractogram and the front end, and also our proposal system and so forth, and also adding in some additional features like they have this thing called ICP, which is something called the Internet Computer, that can work to increase decentralization, and then also something called Shutter, which allows private voting and stuff like that, and also the idea of sub voting or sub rounds, which allows like people to create different fractals for different projects. So like this is an example of like the people who or some of the people who we want to like build an environment where people can get rewarded for building this, so it's not all on like Tadas and Vlad and the sync team and so forth, but many other people can help build this, both in terms of technical development and non-technical development too. So like this, I think, to what Eric was saying, well, what is our product? I think that our product is really the Fractal app. I think that's our first product. Maybe there's more, and I think a respecting app could also work too. I've been working on this project in Notion with the Optimistics and talking a lot with Vlad and the DOS about this, trying to coordinate a fractal app and a respecting app. I think ultimately there could be both. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the product of Eden Fractal, and I had shared a little bit, and I put this together in a lot more detail this week and talked about it with Vlad about like Vlad had made a wireframe, which I can show. I got Vlad's permission to share publicly, so now I can share. And I wrote this really long, detailed note about like what we should build and how it should be useful. And there's all sorts of like go-to-market strategy and all these different. This is the table contents. It's very long. I spent many hours doing this. But you can see the Figma designs from Vlad, for example, where you can see what Vlad is planning to build, and then you can see Figma that I started putting together as well. And Vlad has a place where people can like play the respect game basically. And this is a little bit outdated too. He had the idea to do DAOs, but he decided to do fractals instead. But he has like a landing page and he has a Zoom call and stuff like that. I can go into more detail as well, but it's like an invitation to join. They're also using something similar on the Antelope too, but we want to make it like really simple for people to play the game on the EVM and be able to go into breakout rooms. I'm just showing a very quick overview, but if anybody wants to like dive in deeper than any, if you can. And I kind of made a more visual version too. One for where just like more of like a respecting app where people can start playing the game. and then like invite friends and even give a personal respect. So like these are just some ideas for like the original app that we can build. But then on top of that, for the actual decision making, like Eric was talking about, I mean, for one thing, in this app that Hodlon had built about the IC Fractal product requirement document, their idea is to basically integrate a proposal system right into the app too. So like the first step is basically to make an app that people can play the game of the respect game or whatever it may be called with the kind of process. And then the next step is like a proposal system too, and have that all in one spot. And on that note too, I also just put together a page at optimismfractal.com with the council, which is the current consensus process that we have out Fractal too. So this is like an early version. It's not like very well built. I mean, it's very well built and it works out well. We've been doing it for the past like 3 months or so, and it's been working out well. And I kind of put together a summary that explains in more detail over the past week. It's still like it's not super easy to use, so we need to prioritize it to make it really easy to use. But we have some nice videos that shows that we have a good overview. We have exact rules and stuff. So like we want to build this kind of product in this kind of thing to make it really easy for people to do this basically. So I think that we have like a good basically pilot use case and so forth. And then I suppose one other use case I want to share too is I mentioned that Ethereum is like this huge development environment. It says community run technology empowering thousands of decentralized applications and so forth. And this is really what Optimism is. It's a part of Ethereum. It's building on Ethereum. So by building on Ethereum and working with a source like retrofunding, we can inspire people to help build these tools. And I've also been working a lot on Optimism Fractal Notion site too, to make it so that like we can have I built like an education hub and development hub and lots of different projects that people can get involved with to help build these different things. So and I know that's kind of a lot of information, but basically I just wanted to like kind of try to put those pieces together and paint the picture that I think we have a good idea of the product and the product's already in development. And I think that we'll have a much better product in the next month or two.
But just take what you just did, which is very good. Now, let's have somebody go share that with somebody that can't, because it's well, look at this, look at this, look at this. I'm saying we have to distill that into something that is very clear.
Yes, I agree.
So the stuff is already there. I'm saying we need to just actually write down, just like we do with mission and vision. Before we did mission and vision, it was like, well, we do this, we do that, look at this, and look at these things. And we did this video. I mean, all good stuff. But it's a lot easier to say, what are we about? Here it is. Now we need to do that. We did that with us. Now we need to do that with a product.
I agree. And not just write it down, but also implement that into the product. Like, so people can not even ask us about anything, but the product just has the instructions there. I see Rosemary has her hands up too. So curious what Rosemary wants to say.
Yeah, it makes me question then. Okay, so if Eden Fractal then applies for retro funding, and attracts like builders, as you say, and Optimism Fractal does the same, and this Fractal app is the product. It is, I think, the product for both Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal. And I'm thinking what would be the kind of different tasks that between the two, because they're quite repetitive, or they cover each other, kind of the tasks. And I just think we have to maybe think about like what are really what do we want to focus people's attention, or how do we want people to contribute to Eden Fractal? Let's say if we align with optimism.
Well, for one thing, I don't think that Eden Fractal or Optimism Fractal should apply for retro funding. I think that it should be like individuals and teams that work with Eden Fractal and with Optimism Fractal can apply for retro funding. Maybe in the future there can be some way, and it would be very interesting if there was some way that Eden Fractal or Optimism Fractal could directly facilitate that. And there could be an application for Eden Fractal or Optimism Fractal. But as it is right now, like being a decentralized community, we don't have like we're not like custody funds or something like that. So it'd be difficult. And I don't think it would work out very well for Eden Fractal itself or Optimism Fractal itself to apply for retro funding. But that being said, I think that they already do provide like very helpful use cases in different ways. So Eden Fractal, I mean, it has a very clear mission and vision now, and that's about implementing fractal decision-making processes throughout society, whereas Optimism Fractal is more so like actively implementing and using those implemented processes to benefit optimism.
Yes, but they do use the same tools, the same methods, and so forth. Like the tool that you would like, let's say, a builder to build for Eden Fractal would be probably the same one built for or used in other fractals, like Optimism Fractal. So that's why I'm a bit, I'm thinking like in terms of not the purpose for both, but what would builders build, or what would the people who come and join the meetings, what would they be focused on building if the two fractals are use the same very similar tools? But there are probably other things.
And by the way, I have to get off right on the hour.
Okay, thanks.
Got another meeting.
Thanks for letting us know, Eric. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left then, and we should probably not cut it too close as well. So those are good questions, Rosmari, and I can answer, but also I don't know if I suppose I'll answer briefly. So I think like basically people can come to Eden Fractal meetings, and as Eden Fractal grows and becomes a place where there's many people contributing to fractals, it's like people can come to Eden Fractal specifically to share how they're helping fractals, and the tool that they use, it's not like the main focus. Basically, the tool is something that like it's one of our main focuses right now, that we need to build this tool, we need to build this product. But people can just come to say, hey, I help build this tool to help build fractals, to help grow fractals, to help implement fractal decision-making processes. Or they could say, hey, I made educational content or invited friends or whatever to help implement fractal decision-making processes throughout society at Eden Fractal. Or at Optimism Fractal, they could say the same thing, but they say it to help optimism. And then different teams like the Optimistics, or say if Hadlon wanted to make a team with Bitbeckers, or I know Eric has been working a lot with iValue Global, and he's thinking about implementing it with these different organizations, like different teams or individuals. People can work together, collaborate in different ways, but like the general idea here being that individuals or teams could apply for different things, and they can say, as part of my value, the impact that I created for optimism, I helped implement these fractal decision-making processes, and I shared that Eden Fractal, or I helped or onboard people to Optimism, and I shared that Optimism Fractal. So hopefully that is that provides some clarity about what you were saying, Rich. I'm happy to dive into it deeper too. But I also want to give, well, I'm curious, Rosmari, if you have any thoughts about that, or Eric, if you have thoughts you want to share before we wrap it up. And then also in general, I just want to check, I'm pretty sure we're all aligned that I know, Eric, you had some differing thoughts or just some different ideas about how the seasons work, but are you opposed, Eric, to having it where we take a 2-week break after today's meeting and then come back? And I suppose we could always decide the seasonal structure if we wanted to decide it later, but are you opposed to that idea? And does that sound good?
If there's some work that should be done on the app, then I want to not take a break. If taking a break makes a difference if the app, then yeah, then I wouldn't want to. But if it doesn't make a difference, then sure.
Okay. Yeah, one of the main reasons why I'd like to take a break is because I think it would allow me to spend more time developing the app, and like doing each video or doing each event. Like there's some work that goes into creating each event, as well as promoting each event, as well as producing the video for each event and so forth. And right now I'm in the midst of like making a proposal to a potential client to help build this app, and also responding to people like Hotline and providing feedback there. So it'd make me more able to spend more time developing the app, as well as make Rosmari more able to promote the events, and like to be able to attract more developers and so forth. So of course I'd still be happy, Eric, to meet like outside of Eden Fractal meetings too throughout the week, and we could still meet on a weekly basis, just like to catch up and discuss the app development. But I think that saving time from like having to do all that reduction and promotion from Eden Fractals would and allow us to build this app more effectively and quicker.
Cool.
Okay, so that all sounds good, Eric. And then so we'll meet for the next Eden Fractal meeting then on in that would be 3 weeks from now, because we take a 2-week break, and the next meeting would be on May 9th. And I suppose we can also discuss the idea about the 9th season and so forth, and the 12-week season, and we'll have more clarity about that, about the optimism schedule by that time too. So we don't need to make a firm decision, but we can just decide to reconvene for Eden Fractal on the 9th. or actually, no, I'm sorry, that's the 8th, actually, the 8th of May. And then if that sounds good with you, Eric, that's great. And then is there anything else you want to say before we gotta go, Eric?
That's fine. I would like to get with you and talk about yeah, because I'm ready to sell this thing. I have a background in sales and marketing. I'm ready to go sell. And I need to test the app out with somebody as soon as possible to say, how do you feel about it? Because I can't use it as a diagnostic tool till I test out the tool and use a test case to give it to people and get feedback from them. Is the tool doing what I think it's doing to collect the data? So I have to find a completely separate group that I'm not going to use for my major tool. But I have people going, yeah, this would be cool. I'd love to test it out. So I have a list of cards of connections to try.
All right. Well, excellent, Eric. I love to hear that. And yeah, we've talked a lot about this too. So I'm only working a lot to help get you that tool. I'm currently working on helping to get funding for the developers to build it because there's a couple of technical
Well,
things that arose.
yeah, for me, I have to have something to sell, and then we can do for. And the reason I'm working with these is all those nonprofits, all our community grants. So I can get a community. I can go then apply for community grants.
Okay, sounds good.
But I can't apply for a community grant. Is we're a really good organization and we're really good and we really care, and apparently that's really tough to get a grant on.
All right. It helps a lot if
But
you
to
have a.
say we have this thing that's going to make the world a greater place, and if you give some money, we can test it. Well, then I have a shot at it.
Yes, I agree. And I see Rosemary putting up the heart in the fire. So yeah,
Tie it in with the city. So I'm trying to get this to be an integral part of the whole city. And if I can do it with this city, then I can start doing with other cities. But I'm there right now because the city likes me. They give me a certificate of recognition. They're giving me free business license. They're giving me space. They're giving me connections. So now's the time to do that. Well, when somebody's listening to you and they know you, that's the best time to do something. So now is the time to do it. Oh, and I don't know if they told you, they asked me to do apply for it to do a TED talk.
Very cool. Well, I look forward to hearing your TED
But
talk. I wonder if it's going to be about this or but either way, it sounds very exciting.
it's going to be about collaborating to grow community and business. So this is just part of that. And if I get something, I could have done a talk on this. But like I said, we're not at that stage where I can do one, or else I would.
Okay, well, yeah, I think we can be at a stage. So I've been speaking with Vlad, and Vlad's planning to work with Lennar, and they can build, I think, what we need within a month. But there has just been some issues in funding the development right now. But I think they will be able to do it pretty soon. So let's definitely keep in touch, Eric, and let's follow up in Telegram chat. And how about we like schedule a weekly meeting, or just feel free to reach out to me whenever too. But I can give you some updates throughout the week or whenever it's good for you about where the progress of the app is developed. But I think that we were originally hoping by the end of April. It looks like that was a bit too
I
aggressive,
need
but
to
I think we can
start,
figure it. What's that?
as soon as possible. I need to start working with it to say, what am I going to run my people through? All right. My paying customer is here, so I got to go.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks so much, Eric, for all the great insights. Hope you have a great day and enjoy your meeting.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Let's
Oh,
close off.
all right, all right. That was an interesting meeting so far. For sure we can close. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap it up, Rosemary?
No, thank you for the great discussion.
Okay.
Great event.
Thank you for the great discussion as well. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing you and everybody at Autism at Eden Fractal again. By the way, Optimism Fractal 2, we're also planning to take a break too. So, like I said, it's planning to align with that schedule. And I just made a proposal for Optimism Fractal to take a 2-week break as well. So, Eden Fractal will return with our regular scheduled meetings on May 8th. And the plan is that Optimum Fractal will take a 2-week break and return on May 9th as well. So very much look forward to returning for, I think, our next season. We'll figure out the details then. And also looking forward to the break and hope that everybody enjoys the spring break as well. So thanks everybody so much for watching. Thanks for being here with us through all the months and years and learning experiences at Eden Fractal. We look forward to sharing great products with you like we discussed and helping you make better decisions with your community organization. Shall we wrap it up with the Go Fractal? Go Eden Fractal. Go Fractal.
Okay.
All right.
Go Fractal?
We can go Eden Fractal.
Okay then.
Okay. 3,
2,
1.
Go
Eden
Fractal!
Fractal. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rosmari. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.